perimeter surrounding the zone is really enough. If a powerful emission were to occur, we would...
Listen, the zone has remained stable for years. Besides, we didn't establish the most advanced institution in human history without first guaranteeing its safety. As the head of the Scientific Institute for Research of the Chornobyl area, or S.T.A.L.K.E.R for short, I believe the wonders that we will bring to the world far outweigh the potential risks.
How big are these risks exactly?
The zone reveals a whole new world. We can stick with the old one, fearing change.
Hello, I hope you had a nice day, and it's now time for a Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl review. This will be one of my longer videos, but at least I hope you like it and find it useful. First off, some context for the game and my review. So I only played 30 hours, I did not finish it because of tons of issues with the game, and I will talk all about that, but I also believe that the issues can be fixed given time. So for the game, it was originally set to release in April of 2022, but was delayed because of the war between Russia and Ukraine, because the studio was in Ukraine, and that was also an issue, and also some of the developers, or many of the developers, are Ukrainians and had to go to a fight in the war. And this is one thing you need to take into context, because they will finish the game, they will polish it, fix the bugs, fix the issues, but they need time, and when you are also fighting in a war, it takes a lot longer time. But they have relocated to Prague in the Czech Republic, which helps a lot. And I think in the future this game will be very good, but now it's not that good, but at least I'll continue. Now I want to talk about the story. It isn't the best. As I said, I didn't complete it, but there are some good parts about it, but you will not purchase Stalker 2 because of the story. You will purchase it for everything else, because everything else is good, but the story is not the best. It's very boring, it's confusing, it gets a bit better after 20 hours, but it's very confusing, and as now I believe the story is just you need to find a scanner. That's the base of it, and it's a bit confusing to me. I haven't played any of the other Stalker games, maybe that's the reason, but at least it was very confusing for me. But at the same time it was also very interesting, and after 20 hours it really changed a lot. The story just completely changed, and it was so much better, but all of the other problems just became more apparent then, and I couldn't play it anymore. There is a bit of branching story where you can choose to side with factions. There's apparently also multiple endings, and it seems like the branching is actually branching and not just, oh, you say A or B. There are some cases, but they may change one part, they can even change the whole quests, they will change which side you are on and all of that. There's also a lot of side quests. Some of them are really good, some are very simple and boring, but when they are good, they are really good. And there was also a really interesting side quest. I had to go rescue some survivors who were kidnapped, and when I got there I was like, you're not supposed to go in, you're not allowed to be here. And then suddenly the boss said, yeah, come in. And then I got to go in, and I had to like shoot at apples on top of their head, which was really cool, but I decided not to do it and just kill all of the kidnappers. And as soon as I just killed one of them, the mission objective changed to kill all kidnappers, which was really cool. And there's one thing about Stalker 2 is that most of the missions don't have to be completed in one way. There's a lot of choice in the game, which is one big good part of the game. There are many characters, which is a good and a bad part. Some characters are frequent and stuff, but also some other characters just rarely show up and you just forget about them because you think they're like one-off because they showed up one place and then they just disappeared. And characters actually have dialects and you can actually hear them really good, and it was actually pretty cool when I just found a guy who struggled to pronounce the letter G, which was really cool and I like that. And one bad part is that it's hard to remember which side characters are on and which faction they belong to. Some characters that are very frequent, you'll remember them, but it's a bit hard to remember all of the characters because there's a ton of characters. The gameplay can be really good. At its peak, it will feel like a movie, but because everything is flawed in this game, it can be very frustrating. The stealth is terrible, the AI is really weird. Every AI is like Superman. It can see through walls, it can see you miles away. If the AI is standing on the third floor of a building close to a window, it can immediately spot you before you can even spot them. Even if there's no lights, it can see in the dark, even close to you. Sometimes it can't even see you. Sometimes it can't even see the teammates next to them. It's really weird and it ruins the immersion a lot. And there's tons of issues with it. And weapons have durability, which is a bit cool. They can jam a bit nice, but it becomes really annoying and it's extremely expensive to fix weapons. So it's just better to drop them when they're a bit broken and just get a little bit better weapon, because you can't get the good weapons with high durability. You will always find them at like decently level of durability or extremely low. There's something called artifacts, which are an item you can equip which increases some of your stats, but at a cost. And this cost is usually that you gain more radiation over time. And I did not use them at all. I used them at the start of the game, but after that it just became annoying because you gain just a ton of radiation, so you have to use a ton of those radiation removers and it just becomes annoying. So I decided to just sell them so I could buy gear and all stuff and fix my weapons, because as I said, they lose a lot of durability really fast and it's really annoying and they are really expensive. And there's just a ton of issues in the game, and the best way to solve most of my problems was just to sell the artifacts because they are very valuable, and later you just easily get a ton of them and they're worth a lot. So I usually just sell them to fix all of the issues. So I will talk about this a little bit later, but there's a really big issue: weight. And you will easily become over encumbered and everything weighs too much and all of that. I will talk a bit more on this later in the problems part. The world is very big and it's filled with unique places, and there's a ton of biomes, ruined buildings, roads and bridges and a lot of that, and it makes the world feel very realistic and lived in. The world is manually made and not using any procedural thing, and it's really good. And because there's a lot of biomes, you can also feel the diversity, and you actually can feel that it's made by people because the places are made for quests, and you go to places there's only one way, or it's just made for a quest, and you can actually feel this, and it's really nice to see. There's a lot of outposts in the game, or cities or town or whatever you want to call them, where you can find your stash, well, the stash isn't in every place, but I will talk about that later because that's a big problem I need to talk about. But at least you can find traders, you can fast travel, but it's expensive. You can also fix your gear in some places, but the best part is that you can trade, because then you can sell off your stuff or you can put it in your stash, but there's problems with the stash which are really immersion breaking, and it's just bad in some cases. There's also something called anomalies, which is where you will find, or mostly you will find, artifacts. There are anomaly places where there are just a ton of anomalies, and then you will find an artifact, which is nice, but you'll need to explore, which builds upon the gameplay that you need to go explore a lot. But at least anomalies are like special effects where sometimes it's just lava spilling out of the ground to attack you. You would just go into a tornado, or the implosion thing, flying metal which will bleed you if you walk through it fast enough, and stuff like that, which is really cool. Now, the game can look extremely good. It's almost photorealistic. It has incredible foliage and extremely good flora. There's also water, but it's just a flat texture most of the time, at least with small puddles. And sometimes it's actually water, and you can see your character when he walks through it. You can see that the water moves in the correct way, and it's really nice to see. I also found a weird model in the game. You're supposed to be able to see through it, and there's supposed to be an object in it, but it's just a rectangle with like a video texture on all the sides, and you can easily see the texture because you look at one side, you can see the thing inside, but you can also see it on the other side, but it's on a whole other place, and it's just weird and very immersive breaking. The game also supports software ray tracing, which is nice to see. The game also has very good animations, and the guns look very good, and all of that looks just amazing. But there's also a bit problem with lip syncing because it isn't the best in English dub. Now we're at the part that most people are most concerned about the game. That is performance and the technical issues about the game. The game stutters a lot, and I mean a lot. You go out the mouth, stutter. You go out of the settings, stutter. You just press ESC or unpause, stutter. You traverse, stutter. It's a lot of stuttering, and some of them I feel can easily be fixed, and the shaders are also not the best in the game. I mean shader compilation, which starts up at the game, which is nice, but it doesn't do everything. But it's really long, and it takes around 10-15 minutes, I think. It's really long. But at least the lighting can be really good, but it has some bottlenecks, which is that it's software ray tracing, and that means that it's very blocky and it's not that good. You move a bit and it just breaks, and Unreal Engine 5 uses screen space ray tracing, and because of that, when you just look away from it or just look at the ground, it will just immediately disappear, and it's really annoying. And I really hope we can just get hardware ray tracing in settings, because it will make the game look a lot better and just make it better in every way. So there's also another issue with the lighting, which is really annoying, and you will 100% see it, and I have seen a ton of people complain, which is when you're inside and you look outside, it will be very bright, and then you go outside, it's just a completely other thing, and sometimes the shadows outside are completely wrong when you're inside, and sometimes super bright when outside it's super dark, and it's really weird. And when you're outside and look in, it's always super dark. And one big issue about the game, which they need to fix, and this is really concerning because you can't see anything inside. You can't see people, you can't see anything, it's really dark. You have to use your flashlight almost all the time, but the game doesn't disable the flashlight sometimes in dialogues, so you just see a flashlight in this cutscene or the dialogue, which is really annoying, and they need to fix that. There's a ton of ghosting in the game. I tried every single upscaler, I even tried downscaling, I've tried TAA, tried turning frame gen on or off, and every time it was ghosting. I could easily see it on the ground, on the grass, and it's really just, I can't look away because I know it's there and I see it all the time in the game. It's super annoying, and it's also super pixelated because it's super high resolution, high detailed, so you can easily just see it when it moves. It just really pixelated and it's really annoying, and using TAA can sometimes help, but not always. There's also a pop-in the game, which is when you walk, you suddenly see a new thing, or it changes to a high poly thing. It at least isn't very severe, it's a bit annoying at times, but you mostly don't even see it. Now we're gonna talk about the bugs. There's a lot of bugs and they are very different from each other. Some are very game breaking, some can even put you on soft locks, and there's a ton of issues. There was one bug that happened to me which was very severe, and it's super loud, which is infinite emission, which emission is like a storm which damages you, and it's very annoying. But in my case it didn't damage, it was just a constant storm with thunder and lightning, and the sky is red, so you can't even see shadows, and it's really annoying. I had it for 6 hours because the first 10 minutes or so they actually talked about the storm, so I just thought that it was like a story part for like the first hour, and then I started to become very concerned, and after 6 hours I finally understood that it was a bug, because suddenly I got the emission, hide from the emission, but then it said, oh, the emission is gone, and when I walked out it was still an emission. So at that part I just became annoyed, and I had to load back to my save file before it happened, so I lost around 6 hours, and at that part I didn't want to play the game anymore, but I decided to at least play a little bit more to just see if the game just gets a little bit better. As I said, there's a ton of bugs with the AI. You can see through walls, you can even shoot through walls, and it's really annoying, and the AI itself is very broken. And one other bug that happened to me was that a weapon just spawned in my hand, and I had no idea where it came from. I just was traversing and suddenly my gun just swapped to another gun, and it was very weird. I don't even know how that can happen, but at least it happened. It was very annoying, and it happened also a lot that weapon just appeared in my inventory for no reason, which was really weird. And there's one big issue in the game that I need to fix, that many locations have texture overlapping, so you can see that the texture is swapping between different textures, and it's really annoying. I at least think it's the texture problem. I don't think it's another model, and it seems to be just a texture issue. I also found another bug, which was just a wall that was glowing, which was really fun to see, because it was while I had the infinite emission, so at least finally I saw some light, but it was just a glowing wall texture. And I also found a lot of texture seams. You can see where one texture ends on another, but I saw where 4 textures met on the ground, which was really weird. But because of the instant emission part, it was really easy to see because there's no shadows. It was just very basic colors, or basic red colors, so it was really easy to see it, and it's very rare in the game, but it breaks the immersion very much. Now, I need to talk about the problems in the game. There's a ton of problems that I believe can be fixed somewhat easily, at least some of them, and others are not so easily fixed, but all of them need to be fixed so the game can at least be good. There's a big issue with the stamina and weight part. You easily become over-encumbered, and that means you walk slower and you use a lot more stamina. And you're supposed to use stash, but the thing is that the stash isn't in every town and outpost, and sometimes the marker for the stash is wrongly placed, which is really annoying. And the game heavily punishes you for just looting, because you just get very encumbered, and it also punishes you for not looting, because suddenly you're in a fight and you need ammo, but you don't have any ammo because you didn't loot. But you didn't loot because when you loot, you just suddenly become overcumbered, and you get easily overcumbered. You can carry 2 weapons, armor, a pistol, and a mask, a bit of ammo to them, a bit of health, and you're already overcumbered. You can't do any more. And if you carry any more, then you're slowly going to the upper limit, and then you'll just walk super slow, you can't run, and it's use a ton of stamina. It's just really annoying. And as I said, the stash isn't in every town, and you're supposed to use them, and also the marker for them aren't always there, which is weird, and sometimes it's wrongly placed, sometimes the stash is in a completely different room, and the game is really weird because resources are scarce, but also they are everywhere, but also very expensive, and the trading is really broken. You sell stuff when you can buy them for completely different prices, and it's just like, it's normal in a game that they increase it, but when you like sell a bit ammo for 300 coupons, but you can buy the exact same for over 6,000, there's an issue. It shouldn't be that big of a difference. I once sold a SMG half of all of my ammo for everything, and I had a lot of ammo, and I could barely buy around 60 ammo for my other gun, which was so annoying, and there's just a ton of issues about that. The stealth is also very broken. Sometimes you can't even use your takedowns on enemies. Sometimes when you kill them, suddenly the AI just gets super hearing and can easily hear you, and all of that, it's super broken. And the AI is very stupid, as I said earlier. It's super stupid, but the thing is, it has super good aim, so it can easily just shoot you in the head. You start to bleed, and then you need to heal and all of that, because the game is very weird. It's trying to do one stuff, but it punishes you for doing that, and then it tries doing another thing, but the last thing punishes it, and it goes around with just doing something great, and then punishing you for doing that, and then punishes you for not doing that. And it's so weird, and it's a weird game, as I said. I mentioned it briefly about healing, because in combat it's mostly about who has healing, and it's always you, because enemies don't heal. They just stay there, or just stay hurt, or lay on the ground when they have lost a lot of health. But the combat is usually heal, kill, heal, kill, heal, kill. Go to cover, heal, kill. Use bandages to heal because you're bleeding. And that's one part that's really concerning, is that bleeding and radiation just feels like nothing, because you will always be able to heal your bleed, you will always be able to fix your radiation. It just becomes annoying to do all the time. There's also hungering in the game, but I haven't seen any consequences about it. But you at least need to eat some of the food you found, and they for some reason weigh a lot, which is annoying. And many enemies are really overpowered. There's an invisible monster that just attacks you, becomes invisible, goes away, attacks you, becomes invisible, and it's really annoying because what you need to do is just, he attacks you, you apply bandage because he makes you bleed, and then you're just like, oh no, he just disappeared, and then he comes there again, attacks you, you bleed, but this time you're prepared, so you heal with bandage, then you get one shot, and then you try to find him again, but he's super fast, so he just jumps on you and attacks you, and that's just one enemy. There's a ton of other enemies that are a lot worse. There's a magic dwarf that just slings weapons at you, takes your gun away from you, uses other guns to shoot at you, even if you loot the guns and take the ammo. And those guns have also infinite ammo for some reason, which is really annoying. There needs to be a ton of balancing towards the enemies, and I met one very rare enemy, which was just a tank. It was super fast. You could barely dodge it. I had to use its crappy AI against it, and it's super tanky, and I used all of my ammo, and this happened very late in the game, so I had very good gear, I would say. I used all of my ammo, and it was still running towards me, and I almost lost all of my healing, and it just one-shot me, and I died, and the saves was in a whole other place, so that was a big issue. That's one big issue with the game, which is saves. You need to constantly save, because if you don't, you become soft locked and all of that. The game also autosaves very rarely. It's only some places, so remember to save, never overwrite, always create new saves, and also remember to quick save a lot. Now, do I recommend this game? No. Will I probably recommend it in the future? Most probably, yes. There's too many bugs to make it fun right now. The performance is terrible, and you need to use DLSS and frame gen to be able to even play it. If you have an extremely high-end PC, you will be able to have at least somewhat fun with the game, but right now I can't recommend it. I believe my issues can be fixed, that the bugs can be polished, and the game can be optimized, but it's a bit of can. They will most probably do it because they have worked a long time on this game, and it's released, and they need to do it because they also have expansions planned. You can already buy them with the Ultimate Edition. Multiplayer is also planned, which you can buy stuff for in the Ultimate and Deluxe Edition. So I believe they will fix most of my issues, or every issue, but it will take time, maybe a long time, because some of these issues are very deeply in the game, and they need to actually sit down, take a look at what is the issues and how do you fix them without causing new issues. And I don't think the game will be fixed in a month. This will take multiple months, maybe a year. We will probably see a new big update, maybe a 2.0 update like with Cyberpunk. I think the game will be good one day, but that's not today. One day it will be excellent, and it will be very good. Everybody will look at it and say that's a really good game, but right now I can't recommend it. That's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this Stalker 2 review. and I really hope you like and subscribe. It really helps out a lot. Please leave a comment if you have any feedback or anything you want to say to me. I read all of the comments. That's it from me today. Have a nice day.